Researcher notes.
This is what happened to me once. I came home from work, threw off my jacket, and quickly went to the toilet. I open the door and see a huge puddle on the floor. My first thought, oh, the neighbors from upstairs have made a flood again. I quickly go to my room, change into my home clothes, then grab a rag and a basin from the bathroom to clean up the water. I go back to the bathroom, open the door, and I'm frozen in place. The floor is completely dry. You should have seen the look on my face at that moment. And I wanted to tell you, my mom is 30 years old. She has nowhere to live, no steady job. She started living with a man, and he left her for his mom, and she's pregnant with me. I decided to made an appointment with the doctor for the operation, and on the appointed day got ready, washed, and sat down on the road. And suddenly at the front door appeared gray-haired old man in a white coat with a kind, affectionate look and said, pointing at her belly, "Do not do it, Zena," and disappeared. Mom was numb. Then she cried. Mom lived to the age of 95. The last 11 were very. My son and I took good care of her, worked in different shifts to avoid paying for supervision. My mom told this story, not to me, but to my grandmother, my father's mother, when she asked why she didn't get rid of me. I was about 10 years old, and I heard everything. Both my mother and grandmother loved me very much, taught me, helped me as much as they could. That's how it is. Thank you, Vera, 68 years old. When I was a child, a very strange thing happened to me. One early morning, I saw the figure of my aunt appear in our room. She was definitely at work at that moment, but her image stood before us, motionless and silent. The phantom stood in one place, not responding to our words. Then, right before our eyes, this phantom began to slowly dissipate like a haze. Along with me, my cousin was observing this phenomenon. We were both shocked and could not believe our eyes. After the image disappeared, we searched the whole apartment for my aunt. We looked in the closets, checked under the beds, but we couldn't find her anywhere. It was incredible. The person just vanished into thin air. Another striking moment was that the aunt was dressed in an unusual costume with a brightly colored pattern. We remembered this outfit because she had worn it before when we were vacationing at the dacha. The image on the suit was imprinted in our memory, and we recognized it perfectly. In the evening, when my aunt returned from work, she did not put on her usual robe, as always, but took out of the closet the very same suit with the picture. It was the same suit we had seen on her phantom in the morning. We realized that we had seen something like a harbinger of future events, as if the phantom had shown us the future that would happen a few hours later. My cousin came closer to the image and said that it seemed empty, as if it lacked the soul and energy of a real person. This experience made us think about the nature of such phenomena and how thin the line is between the present and the future. I am a professional mathematician, and numbers accompany me everywhere. They are also present in your life, but you may not realize it. An interesting thing happened to me once. I was sitting in the subway in Sydney on my way to work. As I closed my eyes, I suddenly saw a sequence of numbers in front of me. It gave me a feeling of euphoria, as if I had experienced true happiness. When I opened my eyes, I tried to memorize the numbers. There were exactly 5 of them. In Australia, I usually play only one lottery, 6 out of 45. According to my calculations, this is the most likely way, but the problem was that I needed 6 numbers, and I had only memorized 5. Determined, I bought a ticket, choosing the remaining 5 numbers from my vision and adding a 6th at random. The 6th number was wrong, but the other 5 matched, and I won almost $2,000. Although it was not a large amount of money, this case turned my view of the world upside down. We do not see everything that happens around us. The world is much wider, deeper, and more diverse than it appears at first glance. It is not at all as we imagine it. The world is a reflection of our desires, dreams, efforts, and love. Everything we sincerely wish for comes true, The main thing is to dream, strive for the best, and believe in success, and then everything will definitely work out. I would like to note from myself that our fears can come true. I often encounter situations when things go missing and then turn up, but one case in particular stands out, and I can't find a logical explanation for it. Before I got married, I lived in the countryside, enjoying the beauty of nature, the clean air, and the proximity of the forest. One of my favorite things to do was to watch the sunset, especially the way the sky changes colors after sunset. If small, puffy clouds appeared in the sky, they sometimes took the most unusual shapes once they filled the entire sky, creating the illusion of many galaxies. I apologize for the slight deviation from the main topic. So, one day, watching another sunset, I watched the red disk of the sun slowly sink below the horizon, hiding behind the trees. And then, when the sun was half hidden, it suddenly began to rise back up. This went on for several minutes. The sun's disk reappeared above the horizon and then descended again, this time finally, as it should, along with all the accompanying environmental changes. What was it? Honestly, I have no idea. I'm sure it wasn't a hallucination, because I'm perfectly healthy. Maybe some of the viewers have some guesses? I'd be curious to hear other opinions. I wish you all well. How interesting it can be sometimes. I too have had a very unusual mishap involving books. In the 90s, when I was about 15 years old, I read a novel by Emile Zola called Lady Happiness. This book made an indelible impression on me, and I still have the warmest feelings about it. However, years later, already married, I decided to reread this masterpiece and bought a new copy of the novel. To my surprise, although I remembered the plot perfectly well, including the ending, it turned out that the ending in the new edition was different from what I had read earlier. In my memory, it went like this. The main character returns to Paris, stands at the huge window of her store, and looks out at the main street of the city. She is then approached by her new husband, who happily informs her that he is happy to see her again and wants her to stay with him forever. But in the new edition, things were different. The heroine leaves Paris and her lover only hopes that one day she will return with him when he sets out to follow her. I was so puzzled by this discovery that I started looking for information in various sources. However, nowhere did I find any mention of the version of the ending that I remembered. Instead, a new version appeared everywhere that left the story feeling unfinished. This left me perplexed and even a little disappointed, as the book seemed to have lost its completeness. This is such an interesting story that happened to me and my son. He is now 19 years old, and he often recalls our trip to Egypt, which supposedly took place when he was very young. He claims to clearly remember the pyramids and many other details of that trip. But the thing is, no one in our family has ever been to Egypt. Where then do these memories come from? Perhaps it's some weird false memory that stayed in his head. By the way, I also have one unusual memory from my childhood, connected with a train ride. I was only about 3 years old then, but I clearly remember how my mother and I were sitting in the carriage, and an elderly man came up to me. He started saying compliments, asking my name and stuff. Then he pulled some fruit out of his bag and offered it to me. My mom let me take it, and I had my first taste of what he called a banana. Later, when I was about 6 years old, I saw a real banana for the first time and was amazed at how different it was from the fruit the old man had given me. I doubted for a long time that it was really a banana, until I tasted it myself and was convinced that the flavor was just as pleasant as the first one. Years passed, and I sometimes remember that story with my grandfather on the train. One day, I asked my mother what kind of fruit it was, and she said that we never rode on the train at all, and she certainly would not let me take food from strangers. So the mystery remained unsolved for a long time, until one day, at the age of 30, while in Thailand, I suddenly recognized the fruit. It turned out to be part of a breadfruit. When I saw it cut open, I was literally speechless. How was that possible? Now I wonder if it was a false memory or some kind of mental malfunction. Maybe my childhood impressions intertwined with something else, creating an illusion of reality. However, such mysteries are quite rare, but they always leave their mark in my memory. By the way, later I will tell you about my dreams, because they are also sometimes surprising and even shocking.